Florida State versus Georgia Tech. Which 2025 NFL draft prospects need to make a statement? Who are in the second tier that you need to know? And who are the sleepers or potential breakouts? We're going to discuss all of this and more coming up next.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Locked On family? Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, your daily podcast covering your favorite draft prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your boy, Damian Parson. You can find and follow me on X at DP_NFL. I'm a senior draft analyst, and thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everyday is. Got to kick the intro to Mr. LSU himself, Keith Sanchez. You can find and follow him on X at The Talent Code. Can you talk to him, baby?
What's up, Locked On family? Let's get locked in. This is Keith Sanchez, the other side to this dynamic duo that we like to call the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I want to start this podcast off by saying shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day. Every listen is greatly appreciated. If you can hear my voice, go ahead and hit that like button. Don't forget to comment and make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel over at Locked On NFL Draft DP. College football is here, baby, and we're here to preview. We're talking about these NFL draft prospects. So we're going to start this thing. We're bringing it back, right? A little blast from the past with our segments, man. Make a statement, right? We're going to talk about which player needs to make a statement in this game. And then we're going to talk about some of those second-tier prospects that not a lot of people are talking about, right? But we know that they're highly talented, highly skilled players because we've evaluated them. Then we're going to finish this thing off with the sleeper prospects, right? Those guys that can come out of nowhere and make an impact in this Florida State versus Georgia Tech game. DP, before we get started, man, why don't you hit them with our title sponsor?
Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Make a statement, Keith. I when you think about this Florida State Georgia Tech game, both of us probably going in the same direction, but I'm going to quarterback, and I'm going to Georgia Tech. Haynes King, guy that transferred, I believe it transferred from Texas A&M, from Texas A&M to Georgia Tech. And I mean, you correct me if I'm wrong, because you were dialed into recruiting, during your time at LSU. I think this kid was like a 4-star recruit. Like, I'm pretty sure he was
pretty highly recruited guy. I think he came in under Jimbo Fisher. So Jimbo got him. Yep. And this is, watching him on tape, I see why he was a 4-star recruit, why he was highly rated, Keith. This is a talented young man. And in 2023, he completed 62%, roughly 62% of his passes for 2,842 yards. He had 35 total touchdowns, Keith, where and he showcased that dual threat ability that he has. And I really appreciated that, Keith, because he had like 9 rushing touchdowns last year and over 800 yards rushing. So just watching him in this offense, he's listed at 6'3", about 215. So he's got an NFL height, weight, build, the plus athlete mobility. I was just impressed with how much, for one, he has a good arm. He throws with nice touch to be able to layer passes over defenders in both the intermediate and deep portions of the field. That dual threat ability, they run some kind of like QB read option into the RPOs and into like some manufactured like little bubble screens. But also, I can't remember which game it was. He had like a 70-yard run where he like stiff armed somebody, broke out of a shoestring tackle, and then just took it the rest of the way. They run QB draw with him and different things of that nature. And when you talk about making a statement, he is eligible for the draft. I think this is his final year in college football. What better way to put yourself on the NFL and the scouts radar than you're in Dublin, Ireland, so it's not a home game for neither team, but going out there and handling business, Keith. And I think the spotlight, if Haynes King goes out there and has a big day against a Florida State defense that is due to have multiple NFL drafted prospects, I think that'll catapult him into one of those kind of under the radar, now on the radar quarterback prospects that we see pop up every year. Yeah, I'm totally with that, DP. And I can understand it, right? And it's just being at Georgia Tech, right? And you talk about this matchup going against Florida State, you almost want to play with an opportunity to say, hey, we have nothing to lose, right? We're supposed to lose this game. Florida State is the much bigger brand. Historically, they've been a much better program. And so you're like, hey, I think he goes in there and plays loose. And sometimes, DP, because with Haynes King, I don't think he necessarily worked out at Texas A&M, but a transfer to a smaller situation can somewhat help, right? Because you play a little bit more relaxed. You don't feel like, hey, everything is riding on one throw. So I'm with you, DP. I'm excited to see what Haynes King does. But you know, I will make a statement, DP. This is probably year 3 of the campaign, baby. Year 3 of the DJU campaign. Listen, we talk about playing in different places, and it's just funny how expectations, right, based off a program, but just how media matters, right? Because I'm looking at DJU, you have his graphic up right now, right? 57 completion percentage, definitely needs to improve that. 2,600 passing yards and 27 total touchdowns. And I would say, and I don't know if you agree with this, but I thought it was a somewhat balanced or like performance at Oregon State, right? Because
yeah.
from Clemson to Oregon State, but I was looking at the numbers in comparison. The year before, DP, he had 2,500 yards, right, and 22 passing touchdowns. So very similar. He didn't throw the ball as much as Oregon State because they ran the football. But very similar yardage. Like I think it might have been off by a couple hundred yards and 1 or 2 passing touchdowns as far as his productivity at Clemson. But it's just crazy how the conversation around DJU wasn't necessarily the same, right? And I think that has a difference between playing at Clemson versus playing at Oregon State, right? But I'm gonna say is make a statement game, and it should be fairly interesting because Florida State has a lot of transfers in. So I want to see him elevate, right? I want to see him rise to the occasion, play some good, solid football, and you want to get out of there with a clean win overall for DJU. And I think that's what the make a statement is that, you know what, I'm setting a foundation that I'm probably like at the very floor, I'm a 4th round quarterback, but I want to make people optimistic about what I could potentially do moving forward into the season.
No, 100%. And being in the Carolinas, watching DJ Uiagalelei, watching him there, I felt like he was more comfortable at Oregon State. And like you said, I'm not saying Oregon State was a small school, but going from Clemson, where you're in the shadow of Deshaun Watson, you're in the shadow of Trevor Lawrence, it's a total different situation, right? Than going to Oregon State, where they are complimenting you with the run game. The offense it fit him to an extent. Now, what I want, like to your point, what I want to see him get out of this with a clean win, but also be the leader that this team needs as well, right? Kind of settle guys down. I wouldn't be shocked if Georgia Tech tries to blitz him and get under his skin.
Get him rattled a little bit.
Get him rattled early. Like try to, for one, you got to take away the run game, slow the run game down, put him in some 3rd and longs, right? And then, okay, and this is a team and a program that's used to him because they played him at Clemson. So it's like they know what he's good at and where he struggles. So try to get after him, get into his head a little bit, and make him hold the ball a little bit longer, take away the quick reads, and see how he processes the whole entire situation. For me with DJU, when they do that, have a counter for it. You want to blitz me? Cool. I'm not going to get rattled. I'm going to stay calm, stay cool, calm, collected, and stay poised, move up in the pocket, not stare down reads, different things like that. And I think if he can do that, he'll help himself out a lot. But Keith, real quick, one defender that to me needs to make a statement is Florida State edge rusher and defensive end Patrick Payton. In this game, like when you got James Pierce, Mykal Walker, the next coming of Micah Parsons over there in Penn State and Abdul Carter, like you have all these edge rushers in this class and a really good edge rush class. Can't even forget about the 2 young men over at Michigan, Derek Moore and Josiah Stewart, that a lot of people aren't talking about, but they can get after it. Now they're going to be full-time starters this year. If I'm Patrick Payton, I want to come out of this game at a game busters. I'm trying to come out here, dominate that right tackle for Georgia Tech, and I want to make Haynes King as uncomfortable as possible, right? Last year, he had 7 sacks. He might have had a fumble forced or 2. This is a good player, one of the better players on that defense, and probably one of the better players in the nation that doesn't get a lot of you had Jared Verse on the opposite side of you. So it's kind of hard to get the fanfare that you kind of deserve. This is a really talented young man. I hope that he comes out and takes that first game as serious as possible and just dominates the competition.
Yeah, I want to see that too, DP. And there's another guy, and that's what we're gonna talk about in the second tier prospect, because there's another edge rusher for Florida State that I want to talk about that's a transfer into the program. So coming up next, man, we're gonna talk about the next tier of prospects, right? We got the quarterbacks out of the way, man. Now we're about to talk about the next tier of prospects to look for in this Florida State versus Georgia Tech matchup. Guys that are in the 2025 NFL draft coming up next.
This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Guys, some of my self-care non-negotiables, it starts with the fact that I have to make my monthly and sometimes bi-weekly, depending on the month, therapy appointment. Going to see my therapist and someone that's objective and unbiased on my life allows me to vent and hear back, get real feedback, right? Not talking to a friend and somebody that might have a biased ear and opinion, someone that actually doesn't have any ties to me or my personal life. Also, going back to the gym, getting that good workout in, releasing that dopamine and feeling good. When your schedule is packed with kids' activities, big work projects, and so much more, it's easy to let your priorities slip. Guys, if you've been thinking about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online and designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Never skip therapy date with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/lockedon today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. Keep those second tier, next tier prospects to watch when Florida State takes on Georgia Tech in Dublin, Ireland. Marvin Jones, you said that was an edge rusher you wanted to talk about. The other edge rusher opposite of Patrick Payton this season. What have Marvin Jones shown you, and what do you expect and want to see from him in this game?
It's the upside, DP. It's the upside as far as him being 6'5". I think he's listed at 6'5", 255 pounds. Very well put together. I think another former 5-star prospect that he was at the University of Georgia, so Georgia snatched him up. I believe he went to American Heritage High School, very talented high school down there in Florida. Same high school Tyson Campbell came out of. I think James Williams may have went there for a year, and Patrick Surtain, right? So they just put out dudes left and right at this high school. And so I believe he attended there also. And so what I'm looking for with Marvin Jones Jr., DP, is just his ability to just be a good pass rusher. Now, at Georgia, things didn't work out. And we always talk about Georgia and our scouting goals, is that they almost have so much talent that sometimes it does a disservice to the players, right? Because they don't get all the snaps. And I understand from a coaching perspective that, you're trying to throw as many different looks at the offense, right? And that's your goal to win the game. But sometimes it takes away from the snap share. And that's why you may see some of these guys transfer out of these talented programs. I think Marvin Jones Jr. is a talented football player. I think the same thing happened with Jermaine Johnson, if I can remember correctly, DP. I think he went JUCO to Georgia. Then he might have went back JUCO to Florida State. It was something of that, right? And it might have just been a very similar situation that the house was just so packed, right, that I don't know how much I'm going to play. And so I'm looking at Marvin Jones. We talked about the size, 6'5", 255, but this is a good athlete too, right? Really good athlete, good mover. And I wonder if he's going to match very well with his running mate, Patrick Payton, right? Because they're very similar sizes, very similar movement skills. So you're talking about those two guys coming off the edges, right, on third downs, on known running downs. That could be a good luck situation. And then also Florida State, listen, y'all have done it, 2 times already. You talk about Jermaine Johnson, and then you backed it up with a Jared Verse. Now, is this going to be the next transfer edge rusher in? That's going to be another first-round prospect that's going to get everybody talking. So I'm excited about him. I think he can play very good football.
One thing about Mike Norvell, he knows how to work that portal and bring in some defenders. Not even just defenders, receivers too. Remember last year was Keon Coleman that he brought in, who was early second, type of early second pick in the 2024 NFL draft class. Shout out to Mike Norvell, man. He's over there killing handling business in the portal. Keith, I'm gonna stay with Florida State. I'm gonna go to the running back situation. Lawrence Toafili, listed at 6 foot, 196 pounds. Body type wise, he looks like a receiver to me. When I was watching him on tape, he's shaped and he's slim, he's slender, and he's lean. Like there's not a lot of muscle mass on this frame, But last year, he backed kind of split carries for a little bit, and then they just went ahead and fed Trey Benson the rest of the way. But in the 2023 season, Lawrence Toafili had 69 carries, 460 rush yards. He had 5 total touchdowns. But what I really appreciated, I say he looked like a receiver. Well, he kind of played like one too. 21 receptions, 186 yards, and everything. He had a touchdown, through the air as well. He tracks the ball well. He catches it well. This is the name. I think if he received the full workload, the name that came to mind, just talking about Georgia, James Cook. He reminds me of James Cook a lot. And I was like, similar builds. I think James Cook might have been a little heavier, maybe. You know what I mean? So I think those two guys, and what's James Cook a trait, or his best trait, was pass catching in space, being a mismatch option for the offense, where you can get them matched up on linebackers, and your quarterback knows that's where I'm going first. Or that, what I mean? That's if I can get that isolated, if I can get that linebacker isolated on a route, he's going to be fine. So, this is a guy, and, he's a zone-based type of runner where he processes outside to in well, being able to stop, plant, and cut up field, being that one-cut style runner. He can kind of pair together cuts a little bit. He's got a smooth running style, similar to James Cook as well. So, the thing for me is, okay, can you keep the transfer, Rodale Williams, as the RB2 now? Are you going to be the RB1? Or are you going to still be in that kind of complementary role? That's going to be a thing that I'm going to be watching for, a storyline I'm going to be watching for all 2024 during the season for Lawrence Toafili. But this is a guy as a second-tier prospect where in a loaded running back class, you got to kind of get in where you fit in and showcase teams what you can do and why they need to select you.
Yeah, DP, this is funny that you're going to Lawrence Toafili, because I'm picking his running mate. I'm picking a guy that he might have to actually split carries with, right? You was talking about getting him more carries. I'm picking a guy that might take some of those carries, DP, and that is Rodale Williams. So for the listeners, who is Rodale Williams? Rodale Williams is a transfer running back from Alabama, right? From the state of Alabama. Was just in part of a loaded backfield, right? But he's built how you want him to be built. I think 5'10", 5'11", 210, 215 pounds, and just the snaps that he has, right? He showcased well, has the lateral cuts, can get in and out of holes, good contact balance, can run over defenders, right? And I'm looking at this with this Florida State offense. Obviously, Trey Benson is, he's playing for the Cardinals now, right? And so Lawrence Toafili, he split reps with Trey Benson last year. I think that they went and got this guy obviously on purpose, but it was intentional to give him significant carries, and he has the body and the frame to be able to take care of that workload. So I'm definitely looking at Rodale Williams, running back, transfer from Alabama. Now he's with Florida State.
And for a team that they ran both running backs last year, I expect both of these guys to get the carries. It's going to be interesting to see who actually leads them in the carries, in the snap share, in that backfield back there with DJ Uyunglele. But Keith, one more guy going to Georgia Tech. They're kind of their safety. He plays free and strong, but I think NFL projection wise, he's more suited, in my opinion, as a strong safety. LaMiles Brooks, listed at 6'2", 200 pounds on the season. He last year he had 67 tackles. He had an interception, multiple pass breakups, about 6 pass breakups. He has 7 pass breakups and 4 interceptions and a pick 6 over the last 2 years since 2022. Young man that showcases the size and the physicality to be that kind of not tight end eraser, but that when you defense that want to kind of run simulated pressures, goes cover zero and say, hey, we need somebody that can man up the tight end, those big tight ends. He showcases that, competitive at the catch point, tracks the ball well, fights and punches through the pocket, of course, creating those PBUs, but also he's a reliable and steady tackler in space as well, a guy that can kind of walk down close to the line of scrimmage, work as that low hole strong safety. So you're talking about an off the radar type of guy. In my opinion, he could have went into the sleepers, but I got somebody else I want to put there from Georgia Tech. I think that this is a guy that has an opportunity, whether it's tackling Lawrence Toafili or Rodale Williams, or handling. They got the 5-star recruit wide receiver Hakeem Williams, I think is his name, the 6'2", 6'3", 220-pound receiver at Florida State. They got some weapons over there. If you can kind of help limit their offensive production, that'll get you on the radar for sure.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. With DP, let's keep this thing going and flowing. The next up is the sleeper prospects, right? We're gonna talk about the guys that nobody's talking about, that they haven't covered yet, that have an opportunity to make a real impact in this game, that are also 2025 NFL potential draft prospects. So we're gonna have this conversation coming up next.
When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just a job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job, but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. So hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. LinkedIn also knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats and might not have the time or resources to hire. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers. Keith, every draft, I seem to find these small slot receivers that just get busy. Keith, I always find these guys. I don't know why, but I always do. And Georgia Tech has one. His name is Malik Rutherford, 5'9", $170, soaking wet, as they would say. But this young man can get it done. 46 receptions on the season last year, 502 receiving yards, 3 touchdowns. Out of his 46 receptions, 24 of them went for first downs. He's a versatile player for them, where he's predominantly their slot receiver. He gets them first downs and moves the chains. They use him in the manufactured touches and space aspect. He's got good speed and acceleration post catch to get yards after the catch. Good route runner. He's kind of twitched up. He should be at 170 pounds, right? But he knows how to get it done, Keith. And I think this is a guy, whenever, especially against a defense that could get after you. We just talked about Patrick Payton and the other edge rusher over there. I just blinked on his name for whatever reason. But
Marvin Jones.
Yeah, Marvin Jones. When you got those two guys that could potentially disrupt your offense, you need that quick screen, quick outlet in the passing game that could then get yards after the catch, keep you on schedule, and also flip the chains for you, right? Hit that 3rd and 5. Now you 1st and 10 again. So Malik Rutherford, for me, man, again, watching him, I was impressed with him because he has that in space. He has that kind of punt and kick return feel to him, where he just knows how to read blocks. He knows how to read angles and slip and slide into spots. And then with that speed, he can really hurt a defense. I think that he could be in for a much bigger year with more receptions, more yards after the catch, more first downs. And I think it should start, this weekend against Florida State. I think they're going to need him in this offense.
Yeah. I'm going to go with DP. I'm going back to the defense side of the football for Florida State, and I'm gonna talk about a couple of defensive prospects. First off, he started at corner for them last year, right? Cornerback Azariah Thomas, young kid I was familiar with through recruiting. And listen, I just know that he has the length, right? He played a great deal. He's 6'2", almost 200 pounds. So I want to see how does he develop, right? Because we love those cover 3 corners, right? Especially in the draft and everything. And people get excited about the guys that have length and can run. So he's one guy I'm looking forward. Then the next DP, I guess is a common theme, is another Alabama transfer, and that is Mr. Earl Little Jr. And another guy, did he go to the American Heritage too? I'll have to check and see if there's if he came out of there also. But listen, another talented defensive back was playing at Alabama. Kind of had to split reps, obviously, this past year, especially with them having Terrion Arnold and Kool-Aid McKinstry in this past draft. And so transferred to Florida State. I remember him being a highly talented, highly skilled guy coming out of high school, but also I seen flashes of that at Alabama. Now I can see this guy playing multiple positions, DP. I think he can play some corner, play some nickel, and he may give them some reps as safety. If I had to bet potentially the role that he fits, it's potentially the Jerry Jones type of role, right? Or that nickel safety hybrid type of football player, which could be really fun and really engaging for him, because I think it fits his profile a lot as far as who he was as a player. But just somebody that could be looking for that's really off draft boards, right? If you're talking about, we just pitching a Hail Mary type situation, he could be potentially one of those guys.
Stick it, man. And you love to hear that. And they have some, I'm gonna tell you right now, he's not draft eligible yet. But Georgia Tech they have another receiver over there that at first I started watching him and I was like, wait a minute. And then I had to go look and I was like, crap, this kid's not draft eligible. You know what I mean? I was like, that sucks, because he gets after it. And he's going, I think he was their leading receiver last year, Eric Singleton Jr. They had, like I said, we're talking about Malik. Eric Singleton Jr. is over there. They got some playmakers on that offense for Georgia Tech. And for me, it's something that I have to. I'm looking forward to seeing how that matchup takes place. But I'm gonna go to the defensive side of the ball for Florida State again. And he only played 45 snaps last year. But when I checked his height and his weight, then I'll turn on the tape against Georgia. I was like, okay, I see why. I think he was in Dane Brugler's top 50, and that's Darrell Jackson Jr. He's listed at 6'5", 330 pounds. Like I saw a picture of him walking to practice. I'm pretty sure his fingertips are touching his knees. Like he's got long arms. You know what I mean? He's got long arms. But against a physical Georgia interior offensive line, he played well, especially against the run. Physical, power at the point of attack, knows how to use his wingspan, create full extension. I always talk about closing the door, right? If you can contain two gaps, take that offensive lineman, shut the door, and maintain your gap. He does that well. I think there's upside for him a little bit as a pass rusher. We want to kind of see him keep his pad level low through the drive phase. But a guy that plays the 0, the 1, and the 2-eye on that defensive line, this is a guy that can absolutely rise up the ranks of this is a really talented interior defensive line group too. You know what I mean? You got the two young men at Clemson. You got Deion Walker,
two guys Williams,
Michigan. This is a loaded interior defensive line group, and right now he's probably off the radar. But I think this is the type of game where you want to see him just go out there, along with the pass rushers they have, wreck the game on first and second down, showcase some of that pocket pushing ability, and then make people stand up and take attention and pay attention to you and start watching your tape as the season goes on. When you have that frame and that power and that arm length, an NFL GM's going to look at him like, man, he's a hop off the bus guy all day. He's one of the guys I want off our bus immediately. And he looks the part. I think he can play the part as well.
Yeah, I'm intrigued to see him too also, DP. Because it seems like that's the theme with this Florida State team, is that obviously there's a lot of transfers, and I wonder if this is going to be the next common theme, right? Is that, hey, these guys seem to be talented and good athletes. It seems like the goal or the big picture objective would be to get these guys to play as one, right? Like to get them to gel, like get that time together, building chemistry. Because they went via the transfer portal, they picked up some talented and skilled players. Now it's just putting these guys in the right spot and getting everybody on the right page to be able to see. Real quick, I want to ask you, DP, who you have winning this game, man? Florida State, Georgia Tech. You looked at it, we're talking about draft prospects, right? So looking at the more talented squad, I know who I'm gonna go with first. I'm gonna go with Florida State, just because, like I said, the talent that I believe that they acquired, I'm gonna go with Florida State just as far as them having more draft prospects, I believe, at this point.
Yeah, I'm going with Florida State as well. I think Mike Norvell being an outstanding coach and recruiter, and just dude in terms of developing talent. We've seen the track record is there. You went, even when losing your quarterback last year, you went undefeated, still closed the season out undefeated, and was robbed of going to the college football playoffs. I'll say this: if they can't get back there to Haynes King, they could be in for a long day. Like that's the type of talent that he is, and with the explosive playmakers, Eric Singleton Jr. I'm telling you right now, he's a true sophomore. He reminds me a lot of Jahan Dotson. That's the only thing I'm going to say. He reminds me a lot of Jahan Dotson. So if they can't get back there and they allow Haynes King to cook, yeah, it could be a long day for that team. But they have so many. Florida State has way too many draft prospects, especially just on defense alone. On the defensive front, that I do think that Georgia Tech offensive line could get overwhelmed by those guys. and then my guy Haynes King might not have the day that I think that he could have. So I'm gonna go with Florida State in this one.
Okay, I got you with DP. That wraps up another episode, man, of the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I want to end this podcast off by saying shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day, man. If you can hear my voice, go ahead and hit that like button. Don't forget to comment and make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel over at Locked On NFL Draft. Listen, man, I am Keith Sanchez. You can find me on X at The Talent Code. That right there is my guy, my co-host, Mr. Damian Parson. And you can find him on X at DP_NFL. Like we like to say, man, y'all come talk to us because we like to talk back.
Go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube. Wherever you listen to podcasts, get the latest episode as soon as it is available. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers. Guys, it's week 0 of college football. 3 games on the slate for tomorrow. So go ahead and enjoy the weekend. And on Monday, we're going to come back with our recap. All right, game ball, all that type of stuff. Who actually shined during these games? We're going to talk about that on Monday. So come and join the conversation again on tomorrow on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.